Live full-time reaction to Stuttgart 0, Celtic 1. I've got Stuart with me. Stuart, I suppose, in terms of how it could have went tonight, that's probably the best outcome that what we could have hoped for. I thought that turning the tie round and really getting back in it and going through was out of the question, but I think that's given a bit of pride back. We've won for the first time in Germany, which is something, and I think there's some positives to take from it.
Positives to take, definitely. Not going to get sort of carried away. I think if there'd been more riding on the game, then we might have seen a more ruthless Stuttgart than we did see. But it's a win for Celtic, a much, much needed one. Like, I can't remember the last time I felt we needed a win as much going into a game. And regardless of the circumstances, like we did our job tonight. There was some good defending, heroic blocks at times, and a couple of players I feel that really played their way into contention for a starting slot at the weekend. Whether they get one or not remains to be seen.
Aye, we got the perfect start in the game at 29 seconds, was it? Luke McCowan, a lovely finish, a really well worked goal, Stuart. Really well worked goal. Nice. I think McGregor gets on the ball in midfield just after kick-off out to is it Yang or Donovan? Ball's played up to Adamu, who does really well. Takes a nice touch back inside the pitch and just slides a pass straight into McCowan's path, and it's a lovely finish in his left foot into the far corner. I think we caught Stuttgart cold. I think Stuttgart came out maybe a wee bit slow, a bit complacent. Maybe they've got a huge lead in the game, and it was a really nice goal.
Yeah, it was. It was a really nice goal. I think Joe Hart pointed out something in his co-commentary gig, which I thought was kind of went unnoticed maybe at first, but it's the weight of the pass from Adamu. He brings it in really well to start with, and then kind of turns his man, plays the ball into the slot, but he also plays it in the perfect position for a guy on his left foot, knowing that McCowan's a left footer coming into it. And I think that's a really positive sign. A guy that's not been with the group that long, but obviously knows enough about McCowan's game to know that he would prefer coming onto that in his stride on his left foot. And I think that was a kind of understated element of the goal. But you're right, it was a well-worked move. And I think one of those types where, like, when the rub of the green goes for you at the start of the game, you can catch a team cold just because they're not quite on their toes. And I think Celtic did that. And that gave us a platform to kind of build into the game. And obviously we didn't get any more goals after that. But someone in the comments is saying if Maeda had caught his chance moments after, it could have been 2-0. We could have been looking at an altogether more taxing evening emotionally than I was expecting.
For the players.
Aye. But I think what was good is that in a game where Celtic could have come into it and just sort of not necessarily given it 110%, ran through brick walls, at times tonight there was real dedication to the task. And I think that, as well as the likes of McCowan was one of the ones I was mentioning that I felt had played himself in for the weekend. The other one's Sinisalo. Regardless of Kasper Schmeichel's form recently, which has been abominable, I think Sinisalo was really, really good tonight. He made some really good stops. His positioning was excellent at times. And when he needed to make himself big and sort of take command of situations, he did. And it's refreshing to see because in goal, Celtic, it's just been a black hole recently.
Aye, Martin O'Neill said before the game, Stuart, he was always going to play Viljami Sinisalo in this second leg. Now, if you believe that, you believe anything. I think what he means is he was always going to play him ever since the full-time whistle last Thursday, because I don't think he would have put Sinisalo in and made so many changes to the team if the scoreline for the first leg on aggregate was much closer than it was. He's given himself a proper headache. Now, obviously, from a supporter's point of view, we think he already has a huge headache with the goalkeeping situation, because I think Kasper Schmeichel, everybody can agree, his mistakes have cost us recently, and it really wouldn't be a surprise to see him come out of the team. Now, you can just look at the comments. Loads of people wanting Sinisalo to start the game on Sunday. I just feel like he's going to go back to Kasper Schmeichel, and that is going to give him a problem, because should Kasper Schmeichel make any mistakes or should we get beat on Sunday, that is going to become a huge talking point. I think Sinisalo was tidy in the work that he did tonight. There's a couple of shots for distance he got a really strong hand to. But that's not to say that Kasper Schmeichel's never made a save like that, but the reality is recently, even if you go back to the first leg last Thursday, 2 shots for distance beat him when they really shouldn't have. So I think he made tidy saves tonight. Didn't make any huge errors. I think he's confident on the ball. It's not to say that he's a finished article, but I think he looks competent, and I agree, he probably should stay in the team for Sunday.
Yeah, but I don't think he will. As you say, I think Martin O'Neill will probably revert to, because I think especially a manager like O'Neill, but I think any football manager at the top level, they set a lot of store by people who have the right mentality, who have experience, who have the kind of big match experience and the big game, the situational awareness to deal with certain things. Now, Sinisalo's never played in a game at the magnitude what it's going to be on Sunday. Kasper Schmeichel definitely has, and dozens and dozens and dozens of them. So I think for that perspective, you can understand that. But I think you just have to look at how disappointing Kasper Schmeichel's form has been recently. And there is an argument, a slight one, right? I'm not going to go and die on this hill, but there is a slight argument to say that if you play a goalkeeper that can actually dive and make saves, and I'm being that stark about it, last Thursday, that Celtic could be well in this tie, and it could be maybe a goal deficit we're going to Germany with that we redress within 29 seconds, and then it's a totally different ball game. Now, do I think Celtic would come through the tie? I still think we probably wouldn't, right? I think you just need to look at the strength and depth that Stuttgart have got by the substitutes that they brought on into the game. But when I look at just how disappointing that display in the flesh, I've not watched the goals back for last Thursday. I can't bring myself to, and I think the moment's past now for that. But it was the nature of watching it. You just thought that was an opposition team who were given explicit instructions to shoot at that goalkeeper. Tonight they tried it a couple of times, didn't work. Sinisalo got behind it. There was a couple that bobbled a wee bit in front of him, or maybe skidded off the surface, but every one of those he dealt with well. And there was not one moment where I was looking at the Celtic goalkeeper tonight and thinking, "Oh, that's looking ropey." Whereas whenever the opposition gets a set piece, that's the case with Kasper Schmeichel at the moment. Given everything that is going to be riding on the game this weekend, I think this Martin O'Neill is a guy who has got, well, I mean, he'll back his own judgment, and regardless of what you can say about the fact he's a bit older in his years now, maybe he's getting older and stubborn, whatever, Martin O'Neill would always have backed his judgment going into a game like this. And I think if anyone alive has done enough to kind of get the backing of the support, regardless of whether they think he's right or not, that is Martin O'Neill, right? But if the thing is, it's the net effect of, regardless of whether Schmeichel makes any mistakes, what we need unity within the fan base, right? And I think everyone at the club, regardless of the reasons that is the case, everyone can accept that. So if that is the case, then what is the best thing that you can do in order to foster that unity? It's by making a decision that the fans will get behind. 9 out of 10 Celtic fans will say that Kasper Schmeichel should be dropped, right? And the 10th one's probably wondering about it. So on that basis, there's an easy win here. We've spoken a wee bit on the channel about how Celtic are not making things easy for themselves at boardroom level or whatever. This is an easy win. And if Martin O'Neill can see the bigger picture and not be stubborn, then I think he should make the right decision and start Viljami Sinisalo.
It's a big call. It really is a big call on Sunday. I think there's a few of them across the pitch. Just back to tonight before we get to those team selection issues, Stuart. I think if we'd have got a second goal, you mentioned the Maeda chance, even late on in the second half, we'd weather a wave of Stuttgart attacks. I think they had 25 shots in total. We did have less possession. They were obviously, as the home team, dominant in terms of possession. There was a few heroic blocks that went in late in the game. I think if we'd have managed to nick a second goal, maybe in the break, midway through the second half or in the last 10 minutes, I think Dyson gets in again, and there's a really good tackle just at the back post. I think it's Mittelstadt that gets in there. Couple of wee half chances, and if we could have got another one, then it would have became a contest again, because we'd have been only one goal from leveling the tie in aggregate, but we couldn't quite do that. The other areas of the team that were changed tonight, I actually wasn't that far away with the starting 11.
No.
Dane Murray came in to play at centre-half. Sarachi did come in and play at left-back. We know that Austin Trusty's suspended for the next 3 league matches. Loads of people asking now, what does he do in terms of Murray or Arthur? There's even a couple of suggestions. Could we put, obviously Scales is there as well, but can Tierney play a sort of role at centre-back? That's a call that Martin O'Neill's got to make over the next few days and over the next few league games. But Dane Murray, generally speaking, when he's come into the team, hasn't played very well. I thought he did well tonight. Benjamin Arthur, we don't know a lot about. He only came on late in the game last weekend when we were down to 10 men. He's a big physical presence, but played basically no first-team football in a big pressure-cooking environment like Sunday will be. So, again, that's another huge call at centre-half.
Massive. It seems that Celtic's general ineptitude throughout the season, coupled with the lack of really adding key bodies, particularly, I think defence was one of those areas where it wasn't one that we necessarily zeroed in on massively, because there's always that knowledge that Cameron Carter-Vickers will eventually come back, and then you've got one of your 2 centre-halves if you play 4 at the back, right? So people weren't, and obviously money was spent on Trusty. Scales has come in and done a job, definitely in some of these bigger European games, particularly last season. I thought he stood out in a couple of those. So it's like you don't want to get too many bodies, but at the same time, when I look at the quality and the dearth of quality in the centre-half position, for me, it's been the biggest weakness. And Celtic's team has had some real problem areas recently. But parking the particulars of the goalkeeping situation to one side, in terms of the outfield areas of the team, I think centre-back in the last few weeks has been the most problematic. And looking at the context of that, Austin Trusty, listen, played a good game tonight. But I don't think he was heroic, and I don't ever get that sense that he's a heroic body on the line defender. I sometimes think that he's easily muscled out of things and just doesn't look to have that instinct sometimes.
He's a bit of an enigma, Trusty, because I think he has had 1 or 2, whether he would go to the extent of heroic, he's had 1 or 2 really strong defensive performances away in Europe. Obviously, Atalanta last year in the Champions League. I think Feyenoord, he was really good. Bologna, there was loads of good defending done, despite the fact that we did lose a 2-goal lead with 10 men that night. But then obviously you look at some of the domestic stuff and he's like a fish up a tree at times. He's really difficult to understand. I think he actually, when it comes down to it, he's probably had more bad performances than good performances, but there has been a couple of European away games where he's actually looked relatively solid, Trusty. I can't quite put my finger on why that is.
I know, it's interesting. It's maybe just the kind of nature of the way that the game is played, and the fact that, I mean, he does have elements that he can play the ball a wee bit, but at the same time, he's not that good a ball playing centre half that he's going to look particularly good in a performance where a team's dominating the ball. But where he seems particularly weak for me is when teams counter. Like, I think he's quite good when he feels like the game's in front of him and kind of in control of the situation and control of the angles a wee bit. I think where he struggles is when he's turned and he gets exposed. And that's not even because of a lack of pace particularly. It's just because it seems to be the element of the game that he struggles with the most. Most of the attacks that are going to come against Celtic domestically are going to be counter-attacks, are going to be teams springing on us. And I think that doesn't play to his best strengths.
Yeah, there's going to be loads of big calls. Stuart, another one is up front. We talked about Adamu, a nice assist for him tonight. Nothing really of note aside from that.
I don't know. I thought he was a problem for them at times.
I think early in the first half he done okay holding it up once or twice, but I think his impact in the game waned. Don't get me wrong, he comes off early. He comes off early in the second half. Skvanchara comes on. Again, can't work Skvanchara out either. Some glimpses you think, he looks half decent. He goes through other spells in games where you think, I'm really, really not convinced about him. Iheanacho's there. He came off again tonight, off the bench again tonight. Not been involved domestically recently. Another conundrum up front. Who do you think he'll go with?
I think he plays Skvanchara. What I want is that. I want to see us play 2 up top. The only argument I can see against it is that we maybe don't have wingers that could play naturally in a 4. You know, I think we could probably get the central midfield complement right to work it. Maybe even play a formation that has Sarachi and Tierney in it in terms of getting the left hand sort of dynamic right. I don't know. But I just feel, well, sorry.
No, I just think there's no chance he's going to go four in midfield.
No, I don't think he's going to do it. I'm just saying, like,
or should he? Because Rangers will have 3 in there, and then you risk losing. You risk getting outnumbered, and then
Aye, no. Listen, it would be a big game to make that call. If anything, it's something I think we should have tried to play our way into for a few weeks. I think the additions up front, Adamu and Chavanchara, regardless of, but I mean, they're no world beaters, but they do have quality where we had none, right? So that is an improvement. What I would like to see us do is find out how we can get the most out of those new players and get the best out of what we have added there. And at the moment, it still feels like we're just trying to play the same old formation, the same old way. And it's almost paint by numbers football at times. And it's just, what I want to see is I want to see us actually playing to the talents of the people that we do play. In terms of who I would play, I think Chavanchara is a natural link guy. I think it's his best ability. And I think if you're going to play one up front, you need that player to be bringing the rest of the players into the game. Unless it's like a kind of Kyogo type that can get on the shoulder and score consistently and well. And almost do that job by proxy by keeping the defence in the back foot. That was the way that he tended to do it. Whereas Chavanchara, he's a drop deep, link it, bring other players into the game and then run off the back. That is who I would go for. But Adamu, I think, I mean, I don't know other positions that Adamu can play because I've not seen that much of him. But he does look to be a bit more versatile and does look like a player that you could maybe play in some sort of kind of hybrid role and one of the flanks, kind of maybe pulling in. I wouldn't be against seeing both of them starting in that kind of setup.
Loads of big calls in terms of the team selection.
What about you? What would you go with, like in terms of the forward area, and is there any you do different at the back? Because you asked me.
I think honestly, I couldn't pick a striker, mate. I could not pick a striker. I'd put names in a hat for the striker. Honestly, I can't single somebody out and say he's a much better option than the other one. Maybe it's Chavanchara, as you say, is a better outlet if Rangers are going, well, who knows how we'll play, right? We haven't done well in terms of dominating and controlling games recently. We just haven't done it outright. So maybe when we get on the ball, we're going to look to go into Chavanchara's feet and play off of him. He's probably the best option for that. How would maybe hurt Rangers in behind, though? I'm not so sure. There's a comment there asking when was Dyson Maeda's last good performance, and the answer to that is, again, I don't know. So I think you don't want to play into Rangers' hands in that sense, because I think you can hurt Rangers in behind, but we don't really have that type of threat. Chavanchara probably will get the nod. I think at the back, there's a shout for Sarachi as well. I mean, could he put? I think that's what a couple of the comments were saying. Can he put Sarachi at left back, Tierney at centre half, but Scales is left centre back, so would Tierney play right centre back? I doubt it. I think that's trying to put square pegs in round holes. So loads of big calls. I think the midfield will be interesting because you'd expect Nygren to start, given the volume of goals that he's got. I know you liked Luke McCowan's performance. I actually think Joe Hart made a fair comment, because I think Rory Hamlin asked him on commentary, do you think McCowan has played well there, and that means he should maybe be getting a look in more often? And I think Joe Hart said, I think there's maybe enough, he said it in maybe a nicer way than this, but what he was saying was, I think there's a rhythm there where there's been enough games played that everybody, the manager probably knows where McCowan sits in his pecking order. But he did come in and play well tonight. I don't think, I'm not there with, right, McCowan has to start. I'm really not convinced about that. I just think Nygren's definitely going to start the game. I'd expect Oxlade-Chamberlain to play as well. And I think Callum McGregor, having done another 90 minutes, will obviously have to go to the well yet again. So, loads of big calls on Sunday. I think tonight, Stuart, the biggest takeaway can be hopefully the players feel better about themselves, because, okay, we went out of the tournament, but we were never really close to making it. a proper game in terms of overturning the tie tonight, but a win away from home should make the players feel a wee bit more belief and confidence, because that's been lacking recently.
Yeah, totally. I think there was a commenter, Lauren, who said that it's going to be a bit of a different element mentality-wise. Just find the comment there.
Yeah.
Mentality will be so important on Sunday. We're in a far better place in the back of a win, and off the back of a win and a clean sheet tonight. And I think that is very, very true. I think the fact that Celtic have gone away and you've kind of banished the demons of the 4-1 game to an extent, and hopefully the Hibs game as well. And I think there's a really good argument to say that for Celtic, is it better playing at home or away right now? You know, given the way that the situation is in the stadium. So I'm hopeful that we can go and put in a performance. And the key thing is not to lose it. I don't think it's a must win, but I think it's a must not lose. And yeah, I mean, it's better. I feel better than I did a few years ago. Put it like that. That's the best I can say. But I'm also not getting carried away, because any time that I feel that this Celtic team has turned the corner this season, they've reversed themselves up a one-way street the wrong way. You know, it's been really, really hard.
I'm not going to get carried away with that tonight. But like I say, and as Lauren said in that comment, it is positive in terms of a mentality outcome, because we keep a clean sheet, we get a win. It was much better than coming out 2 or 3-0 and end a 2 or 3-0 defeat tonight and looking at a 6 or 7-1 aggregate scoreline. I think it's going to be interesting to see how we navigate the game, how we start it, because I think the domestic stuff has been really poor recently, and actually it's been getting worse. I suppose I do agree with you that a draw wouldn't be the absolute end of the world, particularly if we go and win. In fact, only if we go and win the game in hand against Aberdeen on Wednesday. But psychologically, we cannot lose on Sunday. If we lose psychologically, it's done. There's absolutely no chance it's going to be mathematically over just for how the points sit and still having that game in hand. But if we lose psychologically, it really is, it's do or die. Stuart, I suppose another bit of news tonight was it Willie Hockey came out on his radio station talking about an initiative to, I think it's called the season ticket. Can you remember the name of it?
Season ticket Alliance, maybe.
Alliance, and for every 10,000 season ticket holders sign up, he's going to put forward £2 million to buy shares. So, if nothing else, I think this is another example of where the football club has gone this year and how it's treated the supporters, the decisions that it's taken, the inaction that's followed up, some really poor outcomes, some really poor decisions. Shows you that people of all walks of life, Celtic fans of all walks of life, think that the club is being poorly led, that it's going in the wrong direction, and that something has to be done about it. Now, everybody's going to have their own opinions on all of these things, like they always do. But I think that shows you that from the outside looking in, I think detractors and opponents of Celtic have said the supporters are entitled. I think just even last week after Hibs beat us, it was Tam McManus coming out to say it's amazing the entitlement of Celtic fans and how they've acted this season. The way Celtic fans have acted this season is not because we're not running away with things on the pitch. It's because of the way the football club's being run. And I think the fact that there's multiple organised groups trying to get a shareholding, trying to change the way that the football club runs, trying to have a say in the way the football club runs. I think all of those things are clear from these actions that different people from different walks of life are taking. And I suppose this is just another thing that highlights that.
Absolutely. No, I think you make a good point. I think the number of instances that we've seen of collective action from Celtic Fans Collective and other fan groups, and just a kind of general sort of idea that the fans have to take affairs into their own hands. I think we've seen that in multiple ways throughout the season. And it's been everything from the tennis ball situation and all of that kind of stuff to something like this. And I think the difference for me is I have been in favour of all of the kind of types of action, or the vast majority anyway, that have taken place, because I think that nothing would change were no action taken. And I think there is no perfect way to do this. But the difference with this is somebody that knows how to play boardroom politics. This is someone that knows how to play the game on that playing field. You know, that playing field that the fans en masse are kind of almost excluded from, just by virtue of the way that the shareholding in the club is at the moment and the way that the board is constructed around that. What you've got here is you've got someone that actually knows how to play that game. And that, for me, is a massive difference maker here. That's what makes this different to any of the other things that have come before it, because everything else is more about shedding light on the problem, about trying to highlight things, about trying to embarrass the board, about trying to do all of those kind of things. This is something that could affect meaningful change. And I'm not a season ticket holder myself, as I've mentioned before in the channel. I rely on favours and kind of winks and nudges to try and get to games as and when I can. I think for anyone that is watching this that is a season ticket holder, regardless of the individuals involved, like I've already seen some comments just on it tonight about keeping Willie Hawkey away from the club. It's not about the individual involved here. It's about trying to get rid of the one individual that we know that is affecting damage to the club now by virtue of keeping a stranglehold on it and not looking to modernise. And stubbornness and the control element that is inherent there. So for me, any season ticket holder who gets offered this, I would take it with both hands, because this is a chance of a guy who has given his own money to try and effect the change that the vast majority of Celtic fans are looking for. Why say no to it? For me, and I think for me, the difference is this is saying, here is what I'm going to do at board level. And regardless of whether this is the actual thing that makes a difference, this is threatening in a whole different type of way to the current incumbents of the Celtic board and to Dermot Desmond and Lindsay Train or whoever it is that he's kind of in tow with there. This is a different factor than we have seen before. And to me, this is a really, really meaningful moment in the development of this whole thing.
It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I think it needs to be a bit clearer. Obviously, he's just gone on radio and trying to describe it there. It's not clear to me how the ins and outs of it work, but I'm sure that will be revealed soon enough. Rather than pass judgment on things before they even got off the ground, I think I'm encouraged by the thing I've already said previously, that loads of people have taken collective action, because if you are a Celtic supporter and you pay attention to what's happening, you know that the club is being run in the wrong way, that decisions aren't being made truly in the best interest of the football club. They're being made through stubbornness, through self-preservation.
Yeah,
as the very man we're talking about accused someone else of very publicly and very unprofessionally just 7 or 8 months ago. I think Dermot Desmond is the one person at Celtic who values self-preservation above everything else, given that despite the fact he makes all the decisions, he's never turned up to an AGM to be accountable for them for 20 years. Let's see how it unfolds. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us on the live stream. Loads of big calls for the manager to make on Sunday. We'll be back with you to preview it in the build-up. We will see you then. Thank you.